Hey, this is me, Miles, and I'm doing my, a review of what the state of the Ravens happened, and a preview of today's games. Today is Saturday, the January the 9th, and we have two games slated today. So I want to get to that a little bit later. But for now, I'm just going to review for what I saw during the state of the Ravens. We saw pretty much Steve Bisciotti say that they asked him, how do you feel now in 2015 when you did compared to when you did in 2007 after Brian Billick was let go and then they hired John Harbaugh. He said he doesn't feel any different then than he does now at this point. Basically saying, and they asked him also about the Super Bowl after 2012. How does he feel? He still feels optimistic. They even talked to him about, this last year. He said, he's tired of going 8-8, and he'd love to have some more home playoff games for M&T Bank Stadium for the Ravens fans. But he said a lot what I've been, telling my friends and stuff about the continuity and consistency in sports. We've gotten to a point now in sports and every sport. Doesn't matter, soccer, hockey, football, baseball, basketball, where if you're not winning within 2 years, you're cut loose. Well, that comes for players and that goes for coaches as well. And you see tons of times with GMs. The Dolphins just hired their 9th head coach since, I think they said 2006. It's been their 9th head coach. So you're changing head coaches every year of the year. The players don't have any faith in where the team is going. It just sends a message down to the players like, what are these guys doing? They don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to plug in pieces and hoping one fits. And it's like you have to, as a Ravens fan, appreciate where Steve Bisciotti is coming from, where you look at the Browns, and I think they just hired their 13th head coach since like 2008. They've gone through I think a couple of years, they've gone through at least 2 coaches a year. They hired a guy and then let him go too. And they've gotten to a point now, and they let go of their GM as well. So they're in a situation now where they're just trying to, it seems like the owner year in and year out keeps overhauling the front office and the coaching staff, and there's no success. At some point, as an owner, you have to just stick with a guy. It's going to be hard for the first couple of years, but you got to allow him to at least have confidence in the fact that he's going to have time to build the team that he wants on the field. You have to give them time, and we've gotten to a point now where the ownership is listening to the fans too much, and the fans are crying for get this guy out of town and get this guy out of here, and they get him out of there, and then the new guy comes in and it's the same result. Every time there's a new person coming in to any organization, there's going to be growing pains. It's not going to be smooth. And for guys who own these football teams that don't know, obviously, how football works. You saw when Tom Coughlin, after he decided to step down, and the emotion of those Giants, the players who were still around from the last Super Bowl that they won against the Patriots. And you saw the emotion of Eli Manning that he felt he let his coach down and let his team down. And Tom Coughlin was like, no, you didn't let anybody down, Eli. It's not your fault. It's on me. That's the kind of coach you want. Now, a lot of people have criticized Tom Coughlin, and I have too, for the last few years for the calls that he's made, questionable decisions that have cost his team games. But the fact of the matter is the guy did win 2 Super Bowls. So he does know how to, a little thing, a bit of knowledge about winning football, especially on the championship level. But the main reason why the Giants were so successful is because of continuity. For years, I think people have been asking, like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless and other ESPN guys have been asking, why won't the Giants fire Tom Coughlin? He won 2 Super Bowls. He earned his right to be the coach of that football team for as long as he wanted to. In a day and age where football is where you don't really see dynasties too much anymore, it's at least in the traditional sense where guys would go to Super Bowls 3, win 3 out of 5 years and things like that. You really don't see it too much now in the NFL. Or any other sport, maybe the Giants, I think the closest thing we have to a baseball dynasty right now. But that's the thing. It's like the reason why they were able to stick it out so long for the Giants and win those 2 Super Bowls was because of the continuity they had. They had consistency. and they stuck it together. And they lived and they died as a team. And they made mistakes, but they had successes too. And that's what Steve Bisciotti was pretty much relaying to the Baltimore media, was like, I'm not letting go of Harbaugh. I'm not letting go of DPs, whether I agree with that or not. That still remains to be seen. There's still things that could happen. Lovie Smith is available. He could become defensive coordinator for the Ravens because Harbaugh and him have a great friendship. So we'll see if they need to make a change on defense as well. But that's another story. I'll get to that a little bit down the road when we get closer to free agency. But for the Ravens, it was the last 2 years. If you take out the fact that we had to have if the Chiefs didn't win that game against San Diego last year, that would be now 3 years in a row that the Ravens would not have made the playoffs. So now the last 2 out of 3 years they have not made the playoffs. So as an organization, where they haven't been this way for a while. Usually the Ravens would miss it maybe 1 year and kind of like, be contending the next. But then those next few years, they'd be like in it. They were in it to win it those next 4 or 5 years. So we're in a period now, the Ravens, we haven't seen since probably since the late 90s when the Ravens were a brand new franchise. We were just trying to get to the playoffs. They got a lot of holes they got to fix now. And what we saw from Steve was saying, he's going to try, and Ozzie, they're basically saying that, they were talking about the Flacco deal and saying that we don't want to, take any money from Flacco, but, we're going to try to work around it as much as we can to get some things done for some free agents to come to the team and or re-sign some guys like KO, possibly to left tackle. But Flacco's already pretty much said that he's willing to negotiate the deal, knowing that that's coming up, knowing that that's going to be a big component of getting the Ravens competitive again going into next season. He knows that. He knows he needs some protection up front, and he knows he's going to need some more weapons on the outside. Regardless that Steve Smith is coming back, he's going to be, 37 with a torn Achilles coming back from that. And a lot of players coming back from those Achilles injuries don't really bounce back too strong. Especially at that age. And then you got Suggs, who just came back from one. He had one before that, so now he has 2 of them. So you don't know what he's going to be like. So they got to get some pass rushers. They got to get some secondary help. You see, they got to get some. They got to get some offensive line help, because depending on what happens with KO, Kelechi Osemele, what happens with him, he may go elsewhere. You don't really trust Eugene Monroe at left tackle anymore, but you owe him a lot of money. So there's a lot of things that have to get done prior to free agency for the Ravens to make some moves. They did say that Ozzie said that they're not going to be as active as everybody hopes they're going to be, but that's always been the Ravens' motto. That doesn't mean that if somebody gets cut because of salary cap issues, if there's a salary cap casualty, that they won't pounce on him. So if they see the right guy, and he did say that, if they see the guy that they want out there, if they're at the right price, they're going to go after him. That goes into me talking about, I think, probably upgrading a wide receiver. I know Kamar Aiken's probably going to be battling for that third receiver spot, and then you got Perryman and Steve Smith. But I think Alshon Jeffery from the Chicago Bears will be the perfect fit for the Ravens. You have Mark Trestman there, who was the head coach there for the Bears while Alshon Jeffery was playing, while he was healthy for the Bears. And he played well into that system. Mark Trestman loves big receivers. He got Max Williams now here, the Ravens. He had Martellus Bennett there. They're both 6'7". He had Brandon Marshall there, big wide receiver. You got Rashard Perryman coming back, who's 6'3", over 200-something pounds. So you got a big receiver there. And then you got Alshon Jeffery, who's 6'4", 6'5", who's also a big receiver. So for Alshon Jeffery, he knows going into a year where he's probably going to be due some money, but he's not going to get the money that he wants. It's probably going to be looking maybe for a short-term deal. It's not going to be paying a lot of money, but it's going to have the opportunity for him to get paid a lot quicker. So he's going to want to go to a system that he's more comfortable with. He's going to go to where a quarterback can actually get him the ball down the field, or he can just go up and grab it. And I feel like Joe Flacco, as we've seen it with Torrey Smith, he can, if you can get down the field, Flacco can get you the ball. You see him playing times throwing the tight spaces and put it over guys' shoulders. You saw that Anquan Bolden, who's a smaller version of an Alshon Jeffery, but he was able to go up. And if you're a receiver that can go up and get the ball, Flacco's the type your guy. So I think Alshon Jeffery won't be signing back with the Bears. I think that he's going to actually come to the Baltimore Ravens for a cheap deal. They're probably going to get him for maybe a year or two. It'll be one of those deals where it's a 2-year deal, but the second year is probably optional. So that's saying that maybe he comes here for a year, saying that, I can get my stock up and then maybe test free agency again coming up. So I think that's a very good possibility for the Ravens, that he's going to probably be one of those cap casualties, just because the Bears seem to be dumping a lot of their older players trying to just start over again. So he may be available. But yeah, for the state of the Ravens, it's tough going as a Ravens fan. Another playoffs, we're not watching it again, and we're calling into question Ozzie Newsome. Everybody's saying that he's lost his touch, and what is he doing? We haven't had a good few drafts lately. So what's going to happen now with Ozzie? Eric DeCosta. How long is he going to sit there behind Ozzie before he decides to step down? And I tell people all the time, we can question Ozzie. It's natural for a fan to start questioning the front office when the last 3 years haven't been as successful. But remember, we've been spoiled by the fact that Ozzie Newsome has been one of the greatest GMs probably in NFL history. He's going to go down as one of the greatest GMs in NFL history for what he's done over the last 20 years. And we've taken it for granted what he's done. He's done things that a lot of other organizations have now tried to copy and mimic, with trading down and getting multiple draft picks and those compensatory picks and playing the best player available on the board, and things like plenty of players now have tried to mimic what he's done to get the success the Ravens have had. And we've hit a lull. We've hit a lull. We don't really draft well with wide receivers. We haven't hit on really secondary guys that good. They said they haven't drafted a cornerback or a cornerback above the 4th round in the last 4 years. If you take out Jimmy Smith, they haven't drafted a guy in the 1st round for a long time. I think the last guy they drafted in the 1st round was Dwayne Starks. Or maybe Ed Reed. I'm sorry, cornerback. But yeah, Dwayne Starks, I think, was the last cornerback the Ravens took in the 1st round. And that was back in like 99, 98. So, for the Ravens, going into the draft, they're going to have a lot of decisions to make, whether, depending what happens with KO, I said, they may have to pick a left tackle in that 1st round, or you may go defensive end to try to somebody replace Chris Canty, or offside linebacker to somebody kind of replace Terrell Suggs. Then you get wide receiver. There's a lot of things that got to get done. I think it's going to take a couple of years. So Ravens fans, just deal with it for a bit. But I said I'll get to that Ravens stuff a little bit later. But coming up today, we got the first game coming on the day. I think it's I believe it's the Vikings and the Seahawks today. I believe. No, it's the Chiefs and the Texans. I'm sorry, the first game. That's at 4:20. So for this game, Chiefs and the Texans. Very interesting game. You got the Chiefs, who don't have Jamal Charles, but since he's gone down, they have won 10 straight games. They have been on a roll. Andy Reid has taken these guys to another level. Alex Smith has played at another level, especially coming off a season last year where not one receiver caught a touchdown. Jerry Maclin has found a home in Kansas City. He's becoming an elite receiver there. He's catching everything, it seems like. You got Travis Kelce at tight end. You got an elite defense with Houston. And so those other guys, and you still got Eric Berry there as well, who's a comeback story for guy. I think he had a bout with cancer. So he's come back and he's played at a Pro Bowl level. So the Chiefs look a tough team. They have Alex Smith has never really been known as a guy that's going to win you a football game. As long as you're ahead, he can kind of manage the game and get things going. So I think for the Chiefs, the key for them, they're going to have to score early. They have to score early. They can't get into a situation where they're going to want Alex Smith to win the game for them. He hasn't done that in the past. He did that one time against the Saints when he was playing with the 49ers. But that was that one game. Over his course of his career, he hasn't been that kind of guy. So for the Chiefs, you're going to want to score early and kind of put the Texans in a hole. You're going to want, at that point, pretty much, you're going to want Brian, I think it's Brian Hoyer. I forgot who the quarterback is now for the Texans at this. I think Brian Hoyer is out. Some other guy. I think it's Brandon Whedon, I think, is the quarterback. I don't really count on him. It's the playoff game. I know the Texans are playing at home, but I don't trust it. DeAndre Hopkins is playing lights out. I do agree. I do have to say that. that man. We thought Andre Johnson left, that was going to pretty much be the end of their receiving core, but they have a stud there, and DeAndre Hopkins in Houston. I just don't think that the quarterback play is going to equal that today. Remember, the playoffs is a totally different animal, totally different environment, and the moment can kind of get to you. And the only saving grace, I think, for them would be J.J. Watt. Now, most likely, they're going to probably be double-teaming him all day. I can't really count on Jadeveon Clowney to do anything. He's kind of been criticized for the last couple of years and not giving 100% and not playing, his best when he needs to, and not playing with a high motor. And a lot of people thought when they drafted him that that 1-2 punch of Clowney and Watt was going to probably be the best pass tandem we've seen in football history, and it hasn't worked out that way. So I think it's an interesting game, but I think, honestly, in my opinion, I think the Chiefs pulled this one out. I think the Chiefs win 21-7. I just think the defense of the Chiefs is just too strong for that offense against the Texans, more so than the offense is against the Houston defense. I just think that they'll be able to score some touchdowns on them. They have been able to run the ball well since Jamal Charles has left, and they have a stud tight end in Travis Kelce. So when you have the weapons like they have on the outside and a guy who can run in the middle of the field with Travis Kelce, I think that just provides too much of an advantage over the Texans. So it was a valiant effort. I mean, they did come out of the AFC South, which stunk up this year. So I think the Chiefs go ahead and win this game. Then the next game we got today is the game I think everybody's going to be watching tonight. That's why it's 8 o'clock tonight. The Steelers and the Bengals. Now, for all us Ravens fans, this is the game we did not want to see. Steelers and Bengals playing for a playoff, moving on to the divisional round, and this is not what we wanted to see. It's like, for Ravens fans, we're like, is there a way that they can find a way to both lose? Is there any way that no one could just win and they just give the bye week winner to whoever either the Patriots or the Broncos and just have them move on to the championship game? But somebody has to win. The Bengals are playing at home, but this is an interesting game, more so than the Chiefs and the Texans, mainly because you've got the Bengals side, which Andy Dalton has been confirmed he's not playing today, still with his thumb. You got A.J. McCarron. He's only played 2 games now, going into a playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be a very tough environment. I know they're playing at home, but this is going to be tough for him. I know he's not shy to big games. He's played big games because he was the quarterback at Alabama, winning those national titles. But going to the playoffs, trying for a Super Bowl, it's different. This is one of those moments that you dream of as a kid, playing in your backyard. This is the moment he's been waiting for his whole life for him at this point to be a playoff-type quarterback, maybe to raise his stock a bit, and to provide some kind of doubt for Bengals fans and Bengals front office. They're like, hey, if McCarron were to take us all the way, I know he paid Dalton a lot of money, but he actually won a playoff game. Dalton has it. Now, granted, the Bengals have dealt with injuries the last 4 years. They had the playoffs. AJ Green would be hurt, or Andy Dalton, or Tyler Eifert, or Giovanni Bernard, somebody on defense. There'd be somebody key on the Bengals team that would be hurting or playing hurt. It wouldn't be 100%, and they would lose. But then you also had to look at the turnover side. Like, they've turned the ball in the last 4 playoff games 9 times. Andy Dalton's thrown 1 touchdown pass in those 9 games. I'm sorry, in those 4 games they've played. 1 touchdown. So if you're the Bengals, and a lot of people are like, well, if we lose today, we had to take it on the chin. We had to it's not our fault. Andy Dalton was out. Andy Dalton hasn't exactly, he's had a good year, and it looked like maybe he's turning around the corner. But for most of us who've watched the Bengals these last 4 years, until they win a playoff game, they haven't proven anything to me. I don't care how good the regular season was. Until Andy Dalton wins a playoff game, that means nothing. And then they got to play the Pittsburgh Steelers at that. They've played a lot lesser caliber teams and the Pittsburgh Steelers and have lost to them. And now they got to play the Steelers, who have one of the best passing attacks in the NFL. So it's going to be tough for the Bengals. So we'll see what happens there. For the Steelers on their side, you got Antonio Brown, you got Marcus Whedon, you got Tavius Bryant. DeAndre Williams is not playing, so they're going to have to count on some unproven running back there. So the running game is going to be pretty much non-existent today, I think. The Bengals are mostly going to be focused on stopping that pass rush and getting to Ben Roethlisberger. We've seen the last 2 games, though. Ben Roethlisberger has not played well. You saw against the Ravens, coming off those couple games where they were scoring over 35 points and just blowing out people. They have not played well these last 2 games, and even against the Browns. They have not played well. I think Ben Roethlisberger threw three interceptions in the Browns game. So going into the playoffs, maybe if you had a bye week, maybe that thing changes. But going into the playoffs, playing that poorly does not bode well for the Steelers, which is fine for me. At this point, I really don't care if the Bengals win the whole thing. They deserve it. The team in the city, the state of Ohio hasn't won anything. I mean, the only thing people that have won is like Ohio State University. But as far as pro sports concerned, they haven't won anything. So if Cincinnati wins the whole thing, I don't care. Just as long as Pittsburgh doesn't win it. That's all that matters to me. And as Ravens fans, as long as Pittsburgh doesn't win it, or the Patriots for that matter, don't win it. But yeah, for the Steelers, the passing attack is going to be key. If Ben Roethlisberger is making the same mistakes and he did the last couple of games, and it may be the fact that those injuries are now starting to creep up on him. He's been playing a long time, been in the playoffs almost every part of his career, and taking those shots when it's cold outside and things like that. I think that those last two games are starting to see what has been happening to Peyton Manning this year, is that he's losing velocity on the ball. He's starting to wince now when guys hit him. He's not getting up as fast anymore like he used to. And he's starting to protect himself more than like he used to step up into that pocket and throw the ball when he knew how to get hit. But now he's starting to get afraid of that hit, and I think it's starting to take an effect on him now. So I actually think personally that the Bengals playing at home, I think it's going to be a great game. I think it comes down to a field goal though, and I think the Bengals win 24-21. I think the Bengals win on a field goal. I don't think they win it on any Major McCarron's arm. I think the running game is going to probably be the key for that. The secondary for the Steelers is not good, but unless AJ Green has to have a phenomenal day. AJ McCarron has found a way to get it to AJ Green, but I think the running game is going to be key. And any time during the playoffs, the running game is key. If you don't have a running game in the playoffs, that pass and attack stuff isn't going to win you the football game. You got to be able to get the lead and then run the clock out and keep your defense healthy and off the field. So I think the Bengals win today 24-21, and I think the Chiefs win today against the Texans. I think it's more of a low-scoring game, so I think it's going to be like 14-10. So that's my pick for this Saturday. But tomorrow morning I'll go ahead and do what my picks are for Sunday's games, and I'll get more into depth about the Redskins and the Green Bay Packers. But that's been my spiel for today, and hope you guys enjoy the playoffs for the next couple weeks. All right, peace.